Hello everyone, my name is Paola Corso and today I'm walking you through my science memoir. All right, so the title of my presentation and the way that I kind of want to walk you through my memories of science is not from here and not from there. My science journey has been so wide, I decided to focus on a short story of biology learning. I am going to be telling you about this from the beginning, my experience at Foothill High School, then my experience at San Francisco State, and then we're going to tie it all together with themes and tensions. So let's start from the beginning, and we titled this Ciencias en Español. So I am from Colombia. Colombia is this country right there in South America. And in order to understand my science history, it is important to understand where I come from and how education works in Colombia. So education in Colombia is very interesting. So we can be in a school, in the same school from kindergarten all the way to 11th grade. We don't do 12th grade. And you honestly only need to do into 9th grade and then you can graduate, but you should do 2 more years. These are kind of like your general ed in college if you want to go to college. So you really need to do 10th grade and 11th grade. I moved from Colombia in the middle of 8th grade. So why is this important? Because 8th grade and 9th grade science are kind of together and they are considered high school if we kind of move the curriculum to the United States. Every summer I went to my grandpa's coffee plantations where we grew some amazing coffee, and I brought you guys some to see. This is from Juan Valdez, but this is pretty much what he grows and then he sells them to big companies like this. So I remember learning the entire process of science, and I remember having a vivid, like having an active voice in my classroom about my experiences. I remember always being able to share what I was learning and always being really motivated to do very hands-on activities. So where the private schools in Colombia offer more than 7 classes. So right here we have to take 6 to 7 classes per semester. Well, there you take about 15 classes. So every day the classes look very different, but you are with the same class, so your same friends for the entire year. So you don't necessarily switch classrooms, you stay in one classroom. So why is this important? Because teachers were needed to be pretty resourceful. It was the same group being there the entire time. And so they were very creative when it came to engaging, and they were very creative when it came to like making sure that we were listening and we were participating. So I always felt like I had a voice. And on top of it, we took a lot of courses. So I was taking biology at the same time as I was taking chemistry, at the same time as I was taking physics, at the same time as I was taking calculus. And this is because my school was pretty good. And so I remember really enjoying like lab days, and I would wear my lab coat and go to lab for chemistry, or bio days, and we will stay in the classroom for the lesson, or we will go to another building for something specific that we were doing in bio. A person that had a really big impact in my science journey was my uncle Victor, because he is a biology professor at a university, and he just really made me love science. It was science made simple, and one of my biggest memories from elementary high school in Colombia was the edible cell. I made the plant cell edible out of yellow, and it was quite amazing. Okay, so Paola la científica, that's me being the scientist. Then we moved to Foothill High School. I moved to Foothill High School in 2005. And so I landed in Foothill High School here in Pleasanton without knowing how to speak the language, not knowing anything. And then I realized that the curriculum was very different. So let's talk a little bit about that. So from Colombia to Foothill here in Pleasanton. So from there to here. And then I realized that here, the US high school system is from 9th grade to 12th grade. And I was like, okay, I have to do 1 more year of school. Then science curriculum looked very different because I only needed 2 years of science to be able to qualify for a 4-year school. And then the traditions were quite different as well. So let's walk through those very quickly. Okay, So here I realized that I needed to take biology, and I was not going to take it as a freshman because I did not speak the language and they didn't recommend me to take it as a freshman. Instead, I waited to take it as a sophomore now that I knew a little bit more of the language. And then I needed to take chemistry in 11th grade in order to qualify for a 4-year school. So I did. Okay. I took biology, and in my class, it was a big class, and half of the class was a lab. But although we didn't spend that much time at the lab, we had to read this book. And I remember my teacher expected us to write a summary of each chapter daily. Like that was the homework. We had to write not each chapter, I guess each unit. Yeah. So from pages 4 to 7, we had to take like Cornell notes, and we had to take these notes so that we could use them during the quiz on Fridays. So back then they didn't give us computers or anything like that. So I used to go to my public library to translate the textbook. So I would take this textbook with me, and then I will go through every page and I would type the page and translate it so that it could make sense to me, because I was really not understanding what he was saying in class. Plus, I needed the notes to pass the quiz, although the quiz was in English. So they got to the point where I couldn't keep up. And I couldn't take the notes, and therefore I wasn't doing well on my quizzes. And my teacher said that it was because I was not taking the notes that I was not doing well on my quizzes, although it was just that I was not understanding what I was writing. So I ended up failing bio as a sophomore, and I had to take it again as a junior. And I went on and took it again as a junior, and I once again didn't do so well. I couldn't keep up with the words. I wasn't really understanding, and I had the same teacher, and I wasn't really getting it. And although I had already, my language acquisition was so much better, and I was able to speak up and say, I'm not really understanding. I couldn't, for some reason, the knowledge wasn't translating, and maybe I was blocked and I just couldn't understand. So I ended up getting a D, and I needed a better grade for that. So that's when college applications were coming around, and I ended up talking to a lot of my teachers and saying, well, I've taken these courses before. Like I know these. I've taken biology and I've taken chemistry before. For some reason, I can't pass the class with a really good grade here in the US. So I decided to take my Colombian transcripts, and I decided to go to the Colombian embassy in San Francisco to see what could be done about my Colombian transcripts, to see if I could somehow justify that I had taken these courses already in Colombia and I had gotten an A, so that they could translate those, like just give me an A for bio here in high school. And it worked. As a senior, I decided to take chemistry, but the first semester I was just not understanding. The teacher was speaking throughout the entire lesson, and I had to take a lot of notes, and I was just not getting it. But it worked. I was able to get my transcripts from Colombia. They counted towards high school, and I was able to replace those biology and chemistry classes for those grades in Colombia. So it gets better. I graduated from Foothill, and then I applied to San Francisco State. So I was like, fine, it's behind me. I don't want to have to do anything. I don't want to study bio anymore. It's behind me. I don't want to do this anymore. I am not going to take a science, but as a general ed requirement, you have to take science. So this is just a little bit of how I felt in my bio class. So San Francisco State, and I decided to title this One Size Fits All, because that's how I felt. So in San Francisco State, we had some scientific inquiry and quantitative reasoning courses. I'm not taking into account the math course that I took. It was a business calculus class that I took because I really enjoyed that, and I think it was it was one of my strengths. Math was one of my strengths. I had to take human bio. I had to take human bio lab, and then I had to take something else, and I decided to do oceanography, and I think the class was aerodynamic weather. I was so grateful. I think I decided to wait and I didn't take it as a freshman. And I was so grateful that I had made a couple of really good friends that really like science, that really motivated me to take these courses and help me study. And more than anything, they really helped me see that I was capable, because didn't feel capable of passing these classes. So they helped me see that I was. So I graduated from San Francisco State with a business major, and I felt very accomplished, and I never looked back. And my fear of science, I'm so grateful that it didn't pass on to my sister, because my sister just graduated from San Francisco State as a dietitian. So kudos to her. She took all the difficult biology classes. So let's talk a little bit about the themes and tensions. So now what? So I wanted to kind of make a connection of my experiences with the book. And one of the biggest connections that I have made was, okay, in Colombia, I grew up speaking the language. So it was one discourse. I could communicate with my teachers. Also, Spanish was the main discourse. But then we moved, and I go through the culture change, and I go through passive learning and a lot of test taking. And then I realized that the teachers were not listening to us anymore, that it was a one voice through high school. So that it was the teacher's voice, the one that mattered. And then when we got to college, it was pretty much the same setting, because it was a big class and we had no participation. So what does that mean for me as an educator? So I was able to get this on teaching the art of teaching science. And although it looks very, very beautiful, I'm going to step out. So what does that mean for me as an educator? Well, it means that I can take everything that I had, that I can take my experience as a learner and as a language learner and as a newcomer and as a Spanish speaker, and I can really create experiences that go beyond this course. I think language has so many different meanings, and I really want to take, in this case, bioscience, any course, and make it accessible for students, make it relevant to their life, to their culture, to their reality, and having and allowing students to communicate beyond note-taking, assessing students beyond the test, perhaps even, as I read in one of the articles, assessing the students throughout and not at the end. So to summarize my memoir, everything started as a fun experience in Colombia, where one discourse was okay, where I was able to communicate, but then the culture changed and everything changed, and note-taking became the rule, and one voice was only allowed. And that became my science experience throughout. And even as an adult, I still doubt myself that I could teach science in a way that needs to be taught. So I read a lot, I inform myself a lot, and I work a lot on myself to be able to be the educator that my students need me to be. Thanks for listening. See each other soon.